this story in The Guardian and the super rich protecting themselves from Armageddon.
Yeah.
Drones.
It's all sounding so bonkersly futuristic, and yet it's here, isn't it? The future's here. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's happening. But billionaires are able to literally construct kind of super bunkers to protect themselves and their loved ones from what they call the event. The event could be various different things. Could be, climate collapse. Could be nuclear. Could be all sorts of awful things that are on the horizon. And these billionaires are hoping that they can sort of save themselves. And also they're going to have trained Navy SEALs, sort of teams of ex-Navy SEALs to protect them. But it isn't clear how you get sort of allegiance from sort of your little private army when everything's gone down, because for what reason would they stand outside your bunker unless they're actually suggesting that they'll have some sort of behavioural collars, I think I read in here. Some really bonkers stuff.
Yeah.
How do you get allegiance from a seal? I mean, maybe a bucket of fish. I don't know.
Well, that might do it. I mean, what would be in your bunker? Because I'd have to have tea bags,
yes.
A good pillow. I go for a memory foam pillow because I'll be down there for a while. Netflix, obviously. GB News.
Clearly, I mean, the idea is that we don't get to the bunker stage. This is what this article is kind of putting forward. He's saying that the worry about these people is that they tend to be these elite millionaires. Like, they tend to be sort of Bitcoin.
Millionaires? They're lightweights. It's billionaires.
Yeah, sorry. Trillionaires. Yeah, they're the proper, like super beyond bonkers, elite wealthy, like buying an island just for fun. And the problem is that they enter a certain mindset where they're always trying to get away from the rest of us. And they've got this whole kind of, this is what the...
they sort of welcome the apocalypse.
They do, and that's the problem.
They want to get rid of the ant people, us.
We're the ant people, and they're aiming for the end game.
Don't get rid of Adamant.
No.
No, not Adamant.
A lot of hits in the 80s.
But we're part of the so long losers that they want to kind of get away from. And the problem is that sometimes, like, if they are these Bitcoin trillionaires, because they're mining their Bitcoin and they're burning up all this energy, for example, and they are pushing, because Bitcoin is so bad for the environment, and they're trying to destabilize countries like El Salvador by making it their currency. They're actually pushing us all towards this apocalyptic thing where they've already got their bunker because they want to get to that end game to prove that they've kind of won.
Yes, you like to think that nothing so apocalyptic will be caused by people unwittingly, or wittingly, I should say, because they're in it just like us. But as soon as they can remove themselves from the fear of it, they can continue to do it.
Yeah.
And that sort of seems to be where we're...
And then they don't have to worry about climate change or war.
Yeah.
Anything.
They might welcome it.
Exactly. It supports their master plan.
Yeah, you got it.
Who knew? Right, well, I'll get digging my bunker when I get home.
First, the stock market would go. Then the economy, boom! The dollar, boom! And then pandemonium in the streets. War, genocide, boom, boom, boom!
Bullshit. Nobody could keep that big a secret, Charlie. Somebody blow the whistle.
And every once in a while, some poor little sucker tries. Well, like these guys. Boom! Boom! Every one of these guys, dead, dead, dead!
Oh, that's Professor Myers.
He ran the last shuttle program. Why, did you know him?
Yeah, he helped me out with research on my book.
well, that must have been before his accident.
Myers is dead.
Oh, yeah, 2 months ago. He was one of my most avid listeners, and he had it all figured out. Everything the government was doing, where and why. He even sent me a map.
A map for what, Charlie? What's the map for?
They're building spaceships, man.
Shit, man. I have to go because I gotta get back to Earth. But do you got a traveler for the road?
Well, this is my last.
Oh, that'll be all right. But anyway, I really enjoyed most of this. Thank you so much.
Hey, guess what? They're selling seats.
Put me down for 3.
No, guys like you and me don't have a chance. You'd have to be Bill Gates or Rupert Murdoch or some Russian billionaire or something.
Keep it down. My kids are sleeping.
Get them out of Yellowstone. It's gonna get ugly here. Hey, guess what? They're selling seats.
Put me down for 3.
No, guys like you and me don't have a chance. You'd have to be Bill Gates or Rupert Murdoch or some Russian billionaire or something.
Keep it down. My kids are sleeping.
Get them out of Yellowstone. It's gonna get ugly here. They're selling seats.
Put me down for 3.
No, guys like you and me don't have a chance. You'd have to be Bill Gates or Rupert Murdoch or some Russian billionaire.
快点火！点火了！点火了！哇！火箭发射！神经！开始录下品！哇！发射了！神经！哇！神经！火箭发射！哇！这声音真大！
我说能听到声音吗？
声音都能听到！哇！好震撼！火箭发射！火箭发射！太震撼了！
Why is no one talking about what's going on in China? They shut off the power in China and it's so hot people are staying in caves and sleeping on top of rivers. People are using umbrellas to cover from the sun. People are still falling out due to heat strokes. They are not used to those temperatures.
This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Some breaking news from Buckingham Palace. The Queen has tested positive for COVID-19.
It is with the deepest of sorrow that we learn today of the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Hey, guess what? They're selling seats.
Put me down for 3.
No, guys like you and me don't have a chance. You'd have to be Bill Gates or Rupert Murdoch or some Russian billionaire or something.
Keep it down. My kids are sleeping.
Get them out of Yellowstone. It's gonna get ugly here.
This story in The Guardian and the super rich protecting themselves from Armageddon.
Yeah.
Drones.
It's sort of all, it's all sounding so bonkersly futuristic, and yet it's here, isn't it? The future's here. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's happening. But billionaires are able to literally construct kind of super bunkers to protect themselves and their loved ones from what they call the event. A few weeks back, the Pope said to all the people that are outside of the Vatican, but are actually citizens of the Vatican, to bring all of their assets in by the 1st of October. This is the deadline. When the Pope, just like any country like Russia, India, America, when it says, we want all our citizens to leave Iraq or Europe and come back into America, they're basically saying that they are isolated and they are at risk by staying where they are. This essentially means that the entire banking industry is being asked to come back into Vatican City and to secure its assets within the vaults, as it were, of Vatican City. The vaults is another way of saying keep it safe, okay? What does that mean in greater terms? It means all assets, banking deposits, contracts, gold, silver, futures, stocks, etc. are to be transferred for safekeeping back into the vaults of Vatican. When this happens, this means that the world is going to be changed in such a way that the Pope itself or the Vatican itself cannot protect its own citizens' banking. Now, the Vatican and the Vatican bankers have proven themselves to be so corrupt beyond our imagination that their deadline will now expire on the 1st of October. Do you remember I told you that on the next 45 days, you will see global events change, okay, or global changing events. Yes. And the publicity around it, the publicity that you get around it, are like the presentation that I'm going to give you. Now, this is the kind of things that you are faced with. They'll say by 1st of October, we're going to stop paying bills. This itself has got nothing to do with anything. It's a wider message to say, on the 1st of October, expect the shit to hit the fan, is what they're saying. Okay? And the Pope is confirming this by saying, Pope imposes deadline for Vatican to transfer assets to bank, that is Vatican Bank itself. And they'll use language, that's very, very Orwellian. Okay, they'll say things like, in a bid to end decades of mismanagement that culminated with scandal over 350 million euros invested in London property. They're basically saying things like 350 trillion of mismanagement. They're basically saying that we are the mismanagements. We are the ones that fed you the false and misleading information. And now we are asking you to bring that. No, they are ordering in those mismanagements, the begotten ills, the ill-begotten gains of mismanagement to be safeguarded in the Vatican. That is basically saying that all of your corruption can be kept safe in their vaults. It's coded language.
And you'll also see language like this. Pope Francis instructs Vatican entities like legal entities, to move all funds to the Vatican Bank by September 30th. They'll put a dot there to let you know what is following is in code, because the sentence actually ends here. Yeah, and it's written in code, and then they put 30. Yeah, this is coded for this type of language here. Let me see if I can blow it up for you. According to Francis' rescript, which means they're going to rewrite the narrative, financial and liquid assets held in banks other than the the IOR must be moved to the Vatican Bank within 30 days of September 1st, 2022. You see the full stop again? That's purpose. They're basically saying count 30 days. Count 30 days. That will more or less put you on the 1st of October. Okay? And he does reveal more and more that it is a rescript. And if you look up what a rescript is, it'll take you straight in there, which means they're going to rewrite the narrative. Okay, and you can have this translated into your own native language. Okay? Why am I telling you this? Because you need to know on the 1st of October, the shit is going to hit the fan. Whether the general public will be even aware of it, I do not know. But the point is, those people that have got assets, our mortgage clients, our tax clients, our debt clients, as it were, protect your assets at all cost. You don't want to leave it in the open market, because this is where the snatching will take place.
It's 5 a.m. I cannot sleep, especially after hearing what I just heard. You guys have got to hear this. Please watch this full video.
To begin, could you give people just a little background of your history with FEMA? Because you worked for FEMA, you know how they work. Tell us a little bit about yourself for our new listeners.
Started as a volunteer, and I worked my way up the ladder.
And then, did you eventually then work in a FEMA office and take on various roles? And what all did you end up doing in FEMA?
Pretty much my specialty was planning. My shame was starting to put the information and the templates together that would later become the databases that we're all fighting right now.
And was it in this process then that you began to see some nefarious agenda behind FEMA, or what alerted you to things that you didn't expect to see?
Oh, actually, when I went to work for them, I was awake. My dad worked for naval warfare, and when I was 5 years old, he looked me in the eye and he said, "This is going to happen on your watch. You need to prepare." And so I've known and I've prepared since I was 5. And actually, when I was at FEMA, I was actually a source of Steve Quayle's, and I was getting him information of what was going on in the inside. So the real agenda, if people go to the World Economic Forum that's held in Davos, they can see this big graphic, and if you click on the COVID-19, there's like this, a spike. It looks like the spike coronavirus, and on each spike is a different disruption of all of society. So basically the plan was to bring the whole world to a standstill and then inject global governance under the cover of COVID-19. This plan the first time I discovered it in January was 200 layers deep. It is now 250 layers deep.
What you think those plans entail? I mean, is this a depopulation event, or are they just trying to centralize control but keep everybody alive and productive, or are they really trying to ultimately commit genocide?
So it's interesting that you asked that, because I'm taking a series of military classes, let's say, and I just did a special report today. So basically with the COVID, we saw the first round of disruption, and it will end with disabling probably 90% of the population. But the ultimate goal is depopulation.
When you say disability, you've mentioned that term twice so far. I'd like you to speak more about this disability, and it brings up the fact that we know now documented that this Wuhan coronavirus attacks neurology. And I know people personally who have lost their sense of smell permanently. Some people have lost their sense of hearing. Some people are suffering brain damage. So is part of the disability an actual kind of neurological lobotomy to where people can't even process anymore? They can't even think to resist? Is that part of it?
Yeah, so it is a biological, chemical neuroweapon. And I just filmed a breaking news story giving the evidence of that with clips from the people that head that up in their own words.
Is that something you're releasing as a video, or how could people see that?
Yes, it will be on my Patreon site. I'm going to make it public on YouTube, and I will also be putting the transcript so that people can have that and share with their friends and their family. I would assume it will be up sometime later today.
Give us a description of what this is going to look like as the food supply craters are everyday Americans. I mean, remember with the thousands of cars lining up for the food banks back in March and April? Are we going to have like massive refugees of millions of Americans streaming into the FEMA camps voluntarily to say, feed me and I'll agree to whatever? Is that what it's going to look like? I mean, you tell me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here.
So basically, there were several objectives after Hurricane Katrina. And one of those was a bill that was spawned after Hurricane Katrina to establish public reception centers at your local Walmart or whatever large facility. It could be Costco, whatever. And it was set up in case of a nuclear event, but it could be any disaster. It could be a pathogen. It could be an earthquake. It could be a hurricane. We're already conditioned to do that. Like it will be a brainstem reaction that when this happens, the next wave hits, that people will be starving. The food supply is going down. The UN just put out a report that they wanted to sell food by the 1/1000th of a calorie. And DARPA, which is the Black Op military sector, wants to sell food by the molecule. So after this next lockdown that we are expecting, I would say within probably 8 weeks, your food supply is going to evaporate, and they want to change your behavior. And right now, you've got a little bit of freedom. Get what food supplies you can, get what seeds you can, because what you have when you go into that lockdown is what you're going to be having unless you completely kowtow to the global agenda.
And how is it, my question to you though, Celeste, is how does FEMA run that whole idea of, hey, we're here to help you. If you want food, come on in and consent to this FEMA camp. How does that exchange actually work? How do they run that on the streets?
So you would go to the public reception center, then that's where you would be processed. It's going to be different than the concentration camps of World War II because we basically are in an automated technocracy. They've got synthetic beings, they have robotics. They really don't need a large population base. So one of the reasons that I left the agencies is they have this plan that if you do not believe that the government is God, then you would go to one of these processing centers briefly. If you could be re-educated, they would do that. Although there isn't much need for humans, the globalists really are free to admit that there's no room for humans anymore. It's our duty to expire so that to make the planet, to atone for our sins, basically, of what we've done to the planet. And so you will basically be killed. And there are two different humane methods of killing. And one of those is gassing, and the other method is decapitation. And they've been doing all these experiments, decapitating thousands and thousands of mice, recording their brain waves, all of that, to justify decapitation as a humane method of euthanizing people.
You're talking about guillotine.
Guillotine, yes. And if you think that there's no evidence, so back in between 2000 and 2005, I collected a lot of military documents, such as, because they were really studying the issue of guillotines and how to build a better guillotine, this type of thing. So I have those documents.
Hi, ant lovers. Ever wonder how ants survive winter? In some areas of the world, winter temperatures can drop as low as -40 degrees C, and yet ants still manage to survive. How do they do it? Well, you're about to learn how. Welcome to another Ants Canada video. So here's a typical ant colony, gearing up for the winter. The queen stops laying eggs, the worker ants have begun to store food in their crops, and the young stop developing. All entrances of the ant nest have been sealed. Alright, so for weeks now, temperatures have gone down to as low as 10 degrees Celsius. It's the end of fall, and as winter comes, it will bring with it sub-zero temperatures. So let's talk about ants' first line of defense against the cold. Now, as a general rule, the deeper in the ground you go, the further from the surface you go, and the more constant the temperature is compared to the surface. You see, air can cool and heat up pretty fast, but soil, water, and rocks don't change temperature as easily as air. And as a result, at just 4 feet below the surface, the temperature remains at a constant plus 10 degrees Celsius. This means that some ants burrow deep into the ground, and this area below 4 feet is a safe zone for ants and other creatures that hibernate in the winter. Pretty cool, right? But that's not all.